What you got? You again, bro? Were you followed? No. The answer's always yes, dumbass. You brought your phone, didn't you? God, you don't even watch Edward Snowden. Do you know anything? It's not your fault. It's not your fault. You have the standard programming. You probably think taxes are a good thing. Maybe they're going to fix the road one day in front of your house. I was hoping for the roads. Then you find out that you were never supposed to be paying this much taxes anyway, and we had a whole war about this kind of thing. That was a dumb answer, but it's not your fault. You probably didn't sleep that good. You're probably scrolling real late looking at the blue light, weren't you? Yeah. I think 9/11 was maybe an inside job. You thought 9/11 might have been an inside job? Maybe it was an inside job. We just tromped around the Middle East and replaced every government we wanted for free, and they literally called it the War on Terror. They literally said we're chasing the boogeyman and stealing your money to do it. But I thought President Bush was... Oh, but he was a Republican. He might have been... Doesn't matter. Why do you think Mitt Romney and all the Bushes and the Clintons and the Bidens and the Obamas are all best friends, baby boy? Their kids hang out. I'm not saying Trump's way better, but they all seem to hate his ass.
But that might be programming too.
Hard to sleep, ain't it? Hard to sleep for everybody. But you better giggle about it or else you're going to commercial. Well, go ahead and pull around back and I'll show you more. Okay.
When I was a young boy, my father took me into a city to see one of the greatest marching bands ever, and they were great. He said, son, when you grow up, will you be the savior of the broken, the chosen one, the beaten and the damned?
You don't have to go to hell. You're in hell. This is hell. This is hell. This is hell.
Because democracy basically means government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.
Then strangled them, and finally dismembered their bodies.
Right.
Then do and homelessness and all that.
And now, the voice you've been waiting for.
There is a secret song at the center of the world, and its sound is like razors through flesh. I'm here to turn up the volume.
I'm kind of retarded.
Do you remember that slimy little insufferable bitch boy that got fired from CNN a while back? No, that's a pretty good guess, but I meant the other guy.
I'm going to say 2 words to you, Mr. Duke, and I want you to say the first thing that comes to your mind, okay?
Okay.
You ready?
Shoot.
Chris Cuomo.
Well, that makes me think of a little girl in a pink dress sticking a hot dog through a donut.
Yes, Chris Cuomo. Little Fredo. He just did an interview with Patrick Bet-David, and guess what he decided to reveal?
I'll tell you something else that's going to get you a lot of hits. I am taking a, what do they call it? Like a regular dose, you know, whatever. They're trying to build up of ivermectin. Ivermectin was a boogeyman early on in COVID.
You couldn't talk about it.
That was wrong. We were given bad information about ivermectin. The real question is why? Everyone's going to say Joe Rogan was right. No, Joe Rogan was saying, yeah, he was right. But that's not what matters.
What an asshole!
What matters is the entire clinical community knew that ivermectin couldn't hurt you. They knew it, Patrick. I know they knew it. How do I know? Because now I'm doing nothing but talking to these clinicians who at the time were overwhelmed by COVID, and they weren't saying anything. Not that they were hiding anything, but it's cheap, it's not owned by anybody, and it's used as an antimicrobial, antiviral in all of these different ways and has been for a long time.
For malaria for over almost 20 years.
Yeah. So, and my doctor, who is now my doctor, was using it during COVID on her family and on patients, and it was working for them. So they were wrong. to play scared on that. Didn't know that at the time, know it now, admit it now, reporting on it now. Because I think that's the job. The idea that, well, you were a vaccine proponent. Why wouldn't I have been a vaccine proponent? Now there are questions. Oh, no, but I knew at the time. No, you didn't. What you knew was that there were people telling you to be resistant to what the government was telling you to do.
Okay, Joe Rogan was right, but that's beside the point. I love how he tries to gloss over the fact that Joe Rogan was right when he was sitting there trying to bash him and anybody else that was actually trying to speak out the truth. You remember the bullshit he was pushing back when it actually fucking counted?
People who are injecting drugs for animals and horse.
And people telling them to. Oh my God. What person? You know, you talk about cancel culture and who to shame. Ivermectin, a dewormer, really?
They are shaming themselves. No one has to shame them. They're shaming themselves.
No, they need to be shamed.
Yeah.
They need to be called out and shamed, brother.
But now as he tries to maintain some shred of relevance, he has to at least somewhat speak the truth and go, oh, well, it's just that we were given some bad information, see? But if he had really had a come-to-the-light moment, I mean, I'm sure he signed an NDA with CNN, so he probably can't legally speak about the fucked-up practices they have over there with suppressing information and controlling narratives. But considering all the fucked-up shit that's come out over that shot, and you just want to dip your little toe into the pool of truth and see what the temperature is, I haven't seen him come out railing against the massive increases in cancer, blood clots, heart disease, infertility. He just wants to talk about his own little pussy-ass problems. And you sure as shit aren't gonna hear him talk about anything like this.
For decades, Ray Kurzweil has been an unofficial spokesman for the transhumanist movement. And in 2008, he said that humans would become infused with nanorobots, which would vastly improve the human body.
If you go out even to 2045, that's only 4 decades from now, most of our intelligence of our human civilization will be non-biological. We're going to put this inside our bodies and brains. So we're going to become machines, but not. And if you say that, then people go, well, I don't want to become a machine, because they're thinking of machines as we knew them from the 19th century, which were much lesser than humans, and machines today are still lesser than humans. I'm talking about a new type of machine that's actually greater, more subtle, more supple, more intelligent, more creative, more beautiful than humans.
In 2010, he interviewed Robert Freitas on the future of nanotechnology, who said that nanorobots could cure aging and death.
Medical nanorobots really have the potential to extend human life more or less indefinitely. So what's your view about the role of death, and do we need death?
Death is something that is an end. It's an end to life. It's an end to progress. It's an end to thoughts. It's something to be cured. Aging is a disease. It's a curable disease. Nanomedicine is the cure for that disease.
He said that this technology is expected to be deployed by 2020, and that laws will be in place to protect the public from its misuse.
I expect that by the time nanorobots are deployed, which will be sometime perhaps in the 2020s or the 2030s, we will have a whole set of laws in place, regulations. There will be things you can and cannot do.
The laws were never put in place, but the technology was patented and deployed to billions of people without their knowledge in 2020. We know this because several independent labs have confirmed the presence of this nanotechnology in the COVID vaccines. And Bill Gates recently admitted to this as well.
Making the mRNA is really easy and really cheap, and that's the magic of this thing. But there's no doubt in the next 5 years, we can, we just need to mess around. There's a lot of lipid nanoparticles, and some are very self-assembling.
Self-assembly and self-replication seem to be the same technology when it comes to nanorobots. And this was considered to be the greatest danger involved with the use of this technology.
Self-replication causes disease. Nanorobots are inherently much stronger than biological systems being built of diamondoids. So if they self-replicate, that disease, quote unquote, could be even a tougher problem than biological disease. So first of all, what's the feasibility of self-replication in the nanotechnology world?
As a general principle, you do not want to put self-replicating nanorobots inside the human body. I suppose not everybody agrees with me on that, but that is the way I think that we can best guarantee safety. If the nanorobots are able to replicate inside the human body, that means they are using some component of the human body as food, and we don't want them to be doing that.
It explains the large so-called blood clots being found in the dead, and it's spreading. Evidence shows that the vaxxed are shedding this to the unvaxxed.
How do we prevent a terrorist or someone who's bent on destruction from creating such a self-replicating system?
There will be some terrorist acts because that's what humans do, unfortunately. So what we're going to be needing in this era of nanofactories is something equivalent to the fire department. Hopefully the incidents will be very few, but we will have an emergency regime which is set up to deal with that type of event.
But the event is worldwide, and there is no agency set up to put out this fire. Our governments are not even discussing the problem, and the perpetrators are planning a second round of nanobot deployment with another fake pandemic.
So you see, for fucking Fredo to come out and say, oh, well, we were given bad information and the experts got it wrong. Well, gee, that's really swell, but kinda fucking worthless at this point. That was just the opening salvo. Now they're trying to take that technology and use that platform to make jabs for any kind of disease, you know, because the Koof one went so well. And that was a Greg Reese report, by the way. There's a lot of really good special reports. They're usually about like 5 minutes long. And he's definitely somebody whose work you should follow. And this does present an ugly little internal conflict for me, being that Trump still runs around talking about how fucking wonderful warp speed was. And I think me and a lot of the other people that are just holding our nose and gritting our teeth for that bullshit, there's this hope in the back of our minds that maybe, just maybe, if he can manage to get back in there, he could completely flip the script on that one. Because right now, you still got a lot of brain-dead fuckheads out there that are just gonna refuse to believe that something so insidious could have taken place. It is possible that it could cost him votes. It's an outside chance, I know, but fuck, what are my alternatives? Joey Skidmarks or the fucking brainworm guy? Well, I'll get to them in a minute. But they finally had Stormy Daniels take the stand this week, and since there wasn't cameras allowed in the courtroom, the media didn't get to play sound bites of that dramatic testimony like I'm sure they would have wanted to, her going through all the details for some idiotic reason of how the fucking went down. I mean, if 25 years ago nobody really gave a shit that the president was getting a blowy in the Oval Office from the fucking homely looking intern, you think they're gonna give a shit about this nowadays? But at least it kept them having to talk about the postponement of the classified documents case in any kind of detail. Almost everywhere it just got briefly mentioned as, oh, the judge postponed it indefinitely because there's so many pre-trial motions to go through. And then they'd go on to spend about 5 times as long talking about the fucking hush money case. Never once mentioning that Jack Smith, the prosecutor with the classified documents case, literally admitted that he, in his words, mishandled evidence and misled the court. Yeah, all those pictures of the documents with the top secret page covers on them that they blasted all over the news, as suspected, those were staged and fake. And they admitted that a lot of this stuff, they couldn't even prove a chain of custody for how the shit got there. So what is the difference between mishandling evidence and evidence tampering?
Anyone? You? Anyone? You?
Well, evidence tampering is a crime, so you definitely don't want to use that verbiage. And we had Joey Skidmarks give this disaster of an interview with CNN. And it's funny because the bar has been set so low for journalism when it comes to interviewing him that even minimal pushback comes off as hardball questions. Because he just doesn't have the mental capacity to deal with any question tougher than, how did you get to be so awesome, Mr. President?
What about, I mean, but there's real pain. I mean, grocery prices are up 30%, more than 30%. Since the beginning of the pandemic, and people are spending more on food and groceries than they have at any time really in the past 30 years. I mean, that's a real day-to-day pain that people feel.
It really is, and it's real. But the fact is that if you take a look at what the people have, they have the money to spend.
Excuse me, the fuck did you just say?
They have the money to spend. It angers them and angers me that you have to spend more. For example, the whole idea of this notion that Senator Casey talked about, shrinkflation. I think it's on your program.
Same price for a smaller bottle of juice or
Well,
something.
for example, Snickers bar, they did a thing, and it's like 20% less for the same price. That's corporate greed. It's corporate greed. And we've got to deal with it, and that's what I'm working on.
Oh yeah, you gotta love that. It's just all that corporate greed. It's not that we're inflating the currency to oblivion. No, it's that corporate greed. And why the fuck does he say it like that?
That's corporate greed.
Like a Southern Baptist, greed. So saith the Lord. Look at how confused he looks. Like, where am I? I thought this was CNN. Oh, they're gonna have to pull something drastic, because he's losing the black vote to Trump in a major way. And they're sure not gonna get it back by switching him out and putting in Gavin Newsom at the last second.
In 2008 and 2012, you voted for
Barack Obama.
Barack Obama. 2016,
I voted for Donald Trump.
Hillary Clinton. 2020,
Donald Trump.
Biden. And who will you vote for in 2024?
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Or that lush up in New York. She had a real beauty of a fuck up this week as well.
Right now we have, young black kids growing up in the Bronx who don't even know what the word computer is. They don't know. They don't know these things. And I want the world open up to all of them.
What did you say, nigga?
I'm sure following that, her phone was ringing off the hook from the donors and her backers to get reelected. And they were probably all saying roughly the same thing.
You stupid bitch.
It reminds me of this episode from that show Blackish back in 2016.
So I just have to answer a few questions?
Yep. Then the app will tell you which candidate you line up with.
Oh, sweetie, I know which candidate I line up with. Whoever's Democrat.
What is your ideal candidate stance on global warming?
Global warming doesn't exist. Next.
How do you feel about building a wall on our border with Mexico?
You mean there's not a wall between us and Mexico? No wonder they keep coming over here taking our jobs.
Should local police increase surveillance and patrol in Muslim neighborhoods?
Only if we don't want the terrorists to win.
It's just yes or no.
Put yes. But say it's because we want to make America great again.
Okay.
Great again.
And then at the end of it, she tells Ruby, well, it says here that you should be voting Republican for Trump. And Ruby says, oh no, honey, I vote Democrat. And Diane says, I don't know, this says you might actually be Trump. I guess it was just one of those moments where they like to just throw it right in everybody's face and go, yeah, we've got you voting for people whose political platform doesn't line up with your values at all. Haha. Little personal anecdote, I was at Walmart the other day waiting to check out, and I had this little old gray Haitian lady standing behind me, and I'm wearing my vest, and she says, excuse me, I just wanted to say I really like your vest. The Cubans down here in South Florida, they all fucking love Trump, they hate the Democrats, and the Haitians tend to be a lot more left-leaning in general. So for this lady to stand there and tell me how much she and her whole fucking family hates Biden and how he's the worst president ever, I mean, you would think, being that I'm in a very blue area here in Broward County, that I wouldn't get so much fucking love for wearing this everywhere, but I do. It's been well over a year since anybody has said anything negative about it. But hearing it come from a little old Haitian lady really made it fucking hit hard. And of course I gotta mention RFK Jr. I mean, yeah, he's solid on the coof and the vax and a lot of the pharmaceutical shit, but that's the only thing he's really solid on. And he did this interview with, I'm not really sure who this lady is, but when she asked him about his stance on abortion, he really tried to weasel out of giving a direct answer to her direct question. But I'll give her credit, she refused to let it go, and she actually finally got him to give a straight fucking answer.
You would say completely, it's up to the woman.
My belief is we should leave it to the woman. We shouldn't have government involved.
Even if it's full term.
Even if it's full term.
Yeah, sorry, but that's a fucking no-go for me. And it's funny because, in general, I am pro-choice when it comes to the law. But there's gotta be a fucking limit. Trust the women? Yeah, because there's no women out there who are scumbags. Sorry, but fuck that. Once you've actually seen some shit pertaining to that and what it actually looks like, you can't unsee it. I don't know if people still think that he's gonna be stealing away votes from Donald Trump come November, but I'd say the chances of that happening just went way down. Sluncha.
This world is my balls and my word, and I don't break them for no one. You understand? So say good night to the bad guy. 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 Come on. Come on. Come on. So say good night to the bad guy. 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 So say good night. So say good night. So say good night to the bad guy. So say good night to the bad guy. So say good night. So say good night. So say good night to the bad guy. I told you, don't fuck with me. 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 You stupid fuck. Look at you now.